I'm Alan Mann, an IT operations leader specializing in observability adoption and people leadership under pressure. Metrics and Mayhem is where I share short, honest signals from the front line, the lessons you only really learn when systems and teams are all up against it. Let's get into today. One of the hardest parts of my job right now isn't technology. It's the translation. Observability is hard enough to get right technically. Explaining to engineers is one challenge, explaining to senior leadership is another. Trying to align both at the same time under pressure, that's where things usually go to crap. And it's one of the most difficult things because engineers want detail, executives want meaning. And if you don't structure the conversation properly, you lose the room very, very quickly. I've seen teams generally do good work and still fail to influence the right decisions with leadership or with the engineers. Not because they were wrong, but because they were unclear. Just think about that for a second. The moment you switch from personal to a work talk, the clock is already running. That first minute decides whether people lean into your conversation or they are quietly checking out. It's the first minute. And this isn't theory. I see this play out all the time. Let me give you a real example of what happened this week. We had an incident, nothing dramatic on the service degradation, no full outage, and the update, one of my leads sent was this. We're seeing elevated latency across several services. We're investigating the logs, reviewing the traces, and working with the teams to understand the root cause. Okay, that's technically accurate. That's probably something you hear and hear every day. But let me tell you right now, on an instant call, it's totally useless, just completely useless. So what the engineers heard in that statement was, we're still digging. What leadership heard was, this sounds so bad. No one is in control. Same words, two completely different interpretations. So I sat with my lead and I said, this is how you should frame it. So first of all, the context. We're talking about the payments journey, the intent. This is the status update. So you need to understand the impact in the steps. The headline is simple. Customers are seeing slow responses, but transactions are complete, no data loss, and we expect the recovery in 15, 30 minutes. Same intent, same facts, completely different outcome. Now, the engineers know where to focus. And now the leadership now knows to stop worrying and everyone stops guessing. And that's the difference structure really makes, something that I've learned over the years. This applies, by the way, into incidents, budget conversations, staffing decisions, KPIs, you know it. And even in your personal life. If you start a conversation with, we need to talk about headcount, you'll trigger panic. If you start the conversation with, okay, next quarter capacity, we need a decision, the current staffing, we're worried it won't reach the plane of growth that we want. Now people can actually think. When you don't frame in the first minute, the audience fills the gaps themselves. And under pressure, they almost fill those gaps with the wrong information and biases in their head. So here's my usual hard stop. If you can't frame it in the first minute, you're not communicating, you're just talking, and you're burning trust. So what do I want you to take from this little conversation? What do I want you to steal from it? Before you speak, stop and ask, can you say this in 3 lines? Now, for those of you who know me and all listen to me, you understand that I could talk for the Olympics. But when I need to get things across, can you say these things in 3 lines? What's the context? What's the intent? And what's the headline you want people to understand? If you can't, you don't understand the problem clearly enough. It's as simple as that. So go back, think, and then try again. In IT ops, poor communication just doesn't waste time, it creates confusion. Confusion creates bad decisions, and bad decisions turn into incidents where everybody pretends that it was unavoidable, but they weren't. They were framed badly, and it's up to you to frame it correctly in the first minute. So try and structure the message, bridge the technical and the business story, and make observability something people can act on. That's my signal for today. I hope you're finding these useful. If you are, please, do the usual. You have my respect. Thank you.